Look into my eyes. You're looking at a man who lost $85,000 because of a lie. A fraud so blatant that the judge was related to the scammer. My neighbor, Roberto, made up a story that my dog destroyed his garden. I lost everything in the first trial. The house almost went to auction. I spent sleepless nights, shaking with rage, thinking about giving up. But I didn't give up. I appealed. I hired a lawyer who hunts corrupt judges, and you know what we discovered? A scheme going back years, dozens of victims, millions stolen, the verdict, overturned, the revenge. My corrupt neighbor and his judge cousin got 6 years in prison each, and me. I recovered every penny, plus compensation, and I even watched them both get handcuffed. Let me tell you how I turned the tables. 3 years ago, after the divorce, I bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. It was my fresh start, just me and Thor, my 4-year-old golden retriever, the gentlest dog you can imagine. Life was getting back on track. Until Roberto Almeida moved into the house next door. In the first few months, he seemed normal. That polite neighbor who waves from a distance. But gradually, the complaints started. Your dog barks too much. Thor barely barked. Your dog invaded my garden. I had a 6-foot fence. Your dog scared me. Thor was afraid of cats. I tried to be cordial. I apologized for things that didn't even happen. I offered to pay for any real damage. But nothing was enough. Roberto always had that smile of someone who knows something you don't. Then came the lawyer's letter. Lawsuit, allegation, extensive damage to ornamental garden caused by neighbor's dog, amount, EIGHTY $5,000. Attached photos of a completely destroyed garden, plants, ripped out lawn, full of holes, broken statues. I laughed when I read it. It was absurd. Thor couldn't even jump the fence. But Roberto's lawyer had everything prepared. Reports, witnesses, even grainy videos where you could see a golden dog in his garden. They were lies. All of them. But I didn't know who I was dealing with. I didn't know the judge assigned to the case would be Dr. Eduardo Almeida. I didn't know he was Roberto's cousin, and most importantly, I didn't know the two of them had been doing this for over 10 years with other neighbors. Other innocent people. The hearing was scheduled. I thought the truth would prevail. How wrong I was. The first hearing was an ambush. I walked into that room confident, with my cheap lawyer, the only one I could afford. Roberto was there, $3,000 suit, expensive lawyer, that poisonous smile, and at the center, the judge, Dr. Eduardo Almeida, cold eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses. I didn't notice anything wrong, yet Roberto's lawyer began. He showed photos of the destroyed garden, professional landscaping work, rare plants, at least $85,000 in damages. He presented 3 witnesses who saw Thor in his garden. He presented veterinary reports proving that a golden retriever has enough strength to cause that destruction. All lies, but perfectly assembled. My lawyer tried to contest. He showed that I had a high fence, that Thor had a microchip with location tracking. He had never left my backyard. He tried to question the witnesses. Objection sustained. Dr. Eduardo cut off all our arguments. Irrelevant. Speculation. Next question. I saw Roberto and the judge exchange glances. Quick, almost imperceptible. But they were there. The verdict came 15 days later. Granted, I had to pay $85,000 in 30 days, or my house would go to judicial auction. I felt the floor disappear. $85,000. I didn't have it. My house was worth $120,000. It was all I had after the divorce. They were going to take everything over a lie. I spent that night without sleeping. Sitting on the living room floor, Thor lying beside me, hands shaking. I thought about selling the house before the auction. I thought about running away. I thought about confronting Roberto, doing something stupid that would only make everything worse. But in the morning, I made a decision. I was going to appeal. Even if it was the last thing I did. I researched for days. I found Dr. Patricia Mendoza, lawyer specializing in appeals, known for exposing problematic judges. She wasn't cheap. She charged $15,000 up front, my entire emergency fund. But when I showed her the case, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. You weren't the first, she said. Dr. Eduardo Almeida has a pattern. She opened her laptop and showed me. 17 cases in the last 8 years. Always lawsuits for damage between neighbors. Always amounts between $50,000 and $100,000. Always representing people with the last names Almeida, Santos, or Farah, names that repeated. He has a network, Patricia explained. Family members and accomplices sue random victims. He rules in their favor. They split the money. The victims think it's bad luck, a grumpy judge. A broken system, but it's fraud. I felt anger and relief at the same time. It wasn't incompetence, it was criminal. And now, I had a chance. Patricia filed the appeal. But she went further. She filed a complaint with the National Justice Council, reporting Eduardo for suspected corruption. She attached statistical patterns, case analysis, family connections. Roberto found out 2 days later. He showed up at my gate, red with rage. "You don't know who you're messing with," he shouted. "My cousin is going to destroy you. You're going to lose this house, your job, everything." I closed the gate in his face and called Patricia. "Record everything," she said. "Threats, intimidation, everything helps." I installed cameras, and Roberto came back. Several times, threats, insults. One night, he threw rocks at my window. Thor barked desperately. Every second was recorded. Meanwhile, Patricia worked. She found previous victims, 12 people who had lost cases to Eduardo in recent years. A 67-year-old lady who lost her house. A businessman who went bankrupt. Devastating stories. They all had something in common. The opponent was Eduardo's family or business partner. Patricia gathered everything: accounting reports showing suspicious transfers, victim testimonies, forensic analysis of the destroyed garden photos which revealed digital manipulation. The appeal case was assigned to Judge Fernando Costa. According to Patricia, he was relentless with corruption. The hearing was 6 months after the events. 6 months of hell. I could barely work. I lost 18 pounds. I lived on coffee and insomnia. Roberto provoked me whenever we met. "Enjoy the house while you can," he'd say, smiling. But the day came. The courtroom was different this time, more tense. Patricia had requested that Eduardo be questioned as a witness, a bold move that made everyone realize something was wrong. Judge Fernando entered. Serious man. A look that missed nothing. He analyzed the files for 20 minutes in silence before beginning. "Dr. Eduardo," he said, "do you acknowledge having a family relationship with the plaintiff in the original case?" Eduardo went pale. "We have distant kinship, yes, but that doesn't second cousin." Fernando cut him off. "And you didn't declare yourself disqualified." First, irregularity. Patricia then presented the complete dossier, the 17 cases, the patterns, the bank transfers between Eduardo and Roberto after each verdict. Roberto tried to leave the room. 2 bailiffs blocked the door. Fernando requested analysis of the garden photos. The expert confirmed on the spot. Digital manipulation. The photos were fabricated. The witnesses, Fernando asked. Patricia presented. All were people who owed Roberto debts. One owed rent. Another had been fired and needed money. The third was dating Eduardo's nephew. False all bought. Roberto exploded. "This is persecution. My lawyer your lawyer is also under investigation." Fernando said, glacial. "It's all documented. The scheme, the victims, the amounts. Gentlemen, you will be criminally prosecuted." At that moment, I saw Roberto crumble. The smile disappeared. His hands trembled. Eduardo tried to argue, but every word only made the situation worse. Fernando overturned the verdict on the spot. Case judged, dismissed. The defendant owes absolutely nothing. Furthermore, I order immediate criminal investigation against Roberto Almeida and Eduardo Almeida for fraud, malfeasance, criminal conspiracy, and procedural fraud. I couldn't breathe. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. I was crying. The criminal investigation was quick. With the evidence Patricia had gathered, the prosecution found even more. Offshore accounts, dozens of victims, over $2 million diverted in 10 years of scheming. Roberto and Eduardo were preventively arrested. On TV, I saw them both being handcuffed. Eduardo, the respected judge, leaving the courthouse with his head down. Roberto shouting that he was innocent. The criminal trial came 8 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. Victims testified, crying, telling how they lost everything. Experts showed the frauds. Sentence: 6 years in prison for both, enclosed regime, plus restitution of all stolen amounts and compensation to victims. I got back the $15,000 I paid Patricia. I received $50,000 in compensation for moral damages, and Roberto had to pay my legal costs another $22,000. In total, I came out of this with $87,000. Almost exactly what he tried to steal from me, but the best part, my house never went to auction. Thor still barks at cats in the backyard, and every morning, when I look out the window, I see Roberto's house, empty for sale. Nobody wants to buy the scammer's house. The last time I saw Roberto was at the sentencing. He looked at me with pure hatred. I just smiled, the same poisonous smile he used on me. I learned something. The system can be corrupted, but it's not broken. There are good people, honest judges, lawyers who fight for the truth. And when you're patient, meticulous, and don't give up, justice doesn't just happen. It comes with revenge.